The title of this video makes a bold claim that the Bible declares that Jesus is God. Is that true? It is certainly a very important question to anyone holding a position on Jesus in their religious views. This would include Christians, Muslims, Mormons, Jehovah's Witnesses, and many, many more. So with all these organisations having an opinion on this subject, it tells us that the deity of Jesus is a very important subject. As a result of this, I'm going to do a series of videos on this subject, and this, my first, will be on the subject of, was Jesus worshipped? One thing that Christians, Muslims and Jehovah's Witnesses have in common is a firm belief that worship is firmly reserved for the one and only mighty God. Of course, there's a debate between Christians and the others regarding God in three persons, usually referred to as the Trinity, but the consensus is that worship is for God only. With that in mind, we can see that if Jesus was worshipped, then that would be significant. More than that, if Jesus was not only given worship, but actually permitted it when he was on earth, then that would be very significant. Before we get into that, let's take a look at a couple of verses on worship in the Bible. The first is from Exodus 20, starting at verse 1, reading down to verse 5. These are actually the first two of the Ten Commandments. And God spoke all these words, I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself an image in the form of anything in heaven above, or on the earth beneath, or in the waters below. You shall not bow down to them or worship them. Another verse is Jesus speaking. He's replying to Satan when Satan asked Jesus to bow down and worship him. This is from Matthew 4 verse 10, and Jesus said this. Jesus said to him, Away from me, Satan, for it is written, Worship the Lord your God and serve him only. So we see it is clear that worship is reserved for God only, and not only that, but we hear it from the mouth of Jesus, which tells us that it is very clear to him. Another verse that is worth quoting is from an angel, Revelation 22, verse 8 and 9. I, John, am the one who heard and saw these things, and when I had heard and seen them, I fell down to worship at the feet of the angel who had been showing them to me. But he said to me, Don't do that. I am a fellow servant with you and with your fellow prophets, and with all who keep the words of this scroll. Worship God. In this passage, we again get a clear message, worship God only. There is something I need to add at this point so that we are clear on it, and that is that all the times I give examples of the word worship, I'm using the same Greek word that the English version is translated from, which is the Greek word proskuneo. This is exactly the same word that the Greek translation of the Hebrew Bible used back in the 3rd century BC for Exodus 20 verse 5. That's the verse that I read earlier. Now we arrive at the crux of the video. Jesus did receive worship and he accepted it. He did not rebuke the ones doing the worship. Let's take a look at three examples from the New Testament. The first reading is from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 28, verse 9. Suddenly, Jesus met them. Greetings, he said. They came to him and clasped his feet and worshipped him. In this example, the people doing the worship are Mary Magdalene and the other Mary, as it calls her. This is after Jesus' death, and the two Marys had gone to prepare the body for burial because a rather hurried job had been done before, because the Passover was due. Now Matthew 14 verse 33 says, Then those who were in the boat worshipped him, saying, Truly you are the Son of God. This example occurs after the disciples see Jesus walking towards them on the water. Finally, John 9 verse 38 says this, Then the man said, Lord, I believe, and he worshipped him. With this example, we have a man who was born blind who Jesus healed. This is only 3 of the possible examples. What I will do at the end of the video is show a web page that has a complete list of the occurrences where the word worship is used. I will add it on the end for the fuller, more complete set of examples so that there is no doubt about what the Bible is teaching. I will use it as a sort of appendix, if you like, the kind of thing you may have in a textbook or a report which you can use if you want more detail. So, in conclusion, with the 3 examples I gave, we saw that Jesus received worship from people in different circumstances. Previously, we saw some of the examples where worship is reserved purely for God, and we saw Jesus himself had the same opinion. We saw one example, and there are more examples, of where an angel took offence at receiving worship. For sure, Jesus would have shown the same reaction if it was not fitting for him to receive worship. If this video has not persuaded you that Jesus is God, keep it in mind that this is only first of many videos to come on this subject. Hopefully, as I go through the different types of evidence, you'll be able to see how God has revealed his truth in his word. The purpose of this is to remove any doubt about this issue and reveal the truth about the deity of Jesus. But as always, the ability to receive the truth depends on our own attitude. If you do not want to believe something, then it is always possible to find a way to reject it. My prayer to God is that he will give everyone who watches this an open heart ready to receive God's truth. So amen to that. So this is the website I was referring to, BibleHub.com. Fantastic website, this, awesome. I just love it. There's so many tools in here for Bible study, etc. You can just simply download a version of the Bible, and it has dozens and dozens of English versions of the Bible. So that's good in itself, but this part of it here is related to the Greek. So you can look at the Greek, you can look at the Hebrew where applicable, and this is to do with the Greek. Now this number here, 4352, that's called the Strong's number. This is work done by Strong's, and that number there refers to this word here, proskuneo. That's the Latin version of the Greek, which is over here, and hopefully this shows up on the video because it's rather small. Proskuneo, there's the Latin meaning again. There's how to pronounce it, so I'm probably saying it wrong. Then as you scroll down on the left, there's a lot and lot of information telling you various background information, where it comes from, you know, what the word means, how it breaks down to the different parts. The bit that's significant to us here is on the right hand side, this column here, and what we've got here, there's over 60 of them, these 60 of them rather, the use of the word proskuneo, where it occurs every time in the Greek New Testament. Now just a little brief Greek lesson here. You'll notice that this word here is different to this word here in the word ending. Okay, but you'll notice if you look carefully, the first letters are the same. Proskunon is the same, and that's what we call the stem of the word. That's the root meaning basically, and the bits on the end add additional information. So if I look at this one, for example, if I hover over this, a little pop-up occurs, and it says verb, aorist, subjunctive, active, first person, singular. So those letters there, V-A-S-A, 1S, is the code for that. So if you use it often, you get used to that, obviously. So let me set this scrolling down. And what we've got here, and not every occurrence of this relates to the worship of Jesus. So you see that one there that's just coming up, Matthew 4:9, is where Satan says to Jesus, you fall down and worship me and I'll give you all the kingdoms, etc. Which obviously Jesus rebukes him for. So there's occurrences like that where the word is applied to some other circumstance, like maybe to God the Father. But you'll see as you go through that a lot of them do relate to Jesus. Came and she worshipped him. fell down, worshipped him, worshipped, that relating to Jesus. And you'll also notice we're just going through Matthew, we're getting to the Gospel of Mark, then we're going to get to the Gospel of Luke, and then eventually to the Gospel of John. So what we've got there is we've got all four Gospels have got examples of when Jesus is worshipped. So we've got the witness of the four Gospels giving an example of when Jesus was worshipped, and Jesus did not put a stop to it. So he didn't say, whoa, stop there right now, don't worship me, like the angel did in the example I gave earlier. So Jesus accepted worship, or at the very least didn't put an end to it, didn't rebuke anybody, as you would have expected, because as we said, he did know that worship was solely for God. So I'll just stop that there. These at the bottom here, there's your 60 occurrences, and these are the examples of the 60 where they occur with the different word endings. So you can click on those and get a little bit more detail of each example. Powerful website. I do recommend you take a look, so hopefully that's useful.